Admiral Hyunwoo stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. Around him, his Scarix crew moved with lazy confidence. This was supposed to be easy work. Kill some primitives, claim a new world for the Empire, and return home in time for the breeding season. The Scarix had done this dozens of times before. They would appear in orbit, destroy any pathetic defensive attempts, and then land troops to finish the job. Most primitive species surrendered immediately when they saw the massive Scarix warships. Those that fought back rarely lasted more than a few hours. "Admiral," called his communications officer, "we are detecting strange signals from the planet's surface. The primitives seem to know we are here." Hyunwoo's reptilian lips pulled back in what passed for a smile among his people. Of course they know. They probably saw our ships with their primitive telescopes. It does not matter. Fear will make them easier to defeat. On Earth, Captain Jihai watched the Scarix fleet approach from her position in the Luna Defense Station. The base was hidden on the far side of Earth's moon, invisible to anyone approaching from the direction the aliens had chosen. Around her, human technicians made final preparations for the attack they had been planning for 15 years. 62 ships, reported her sensor operator. Standard Scarix battle formation, just like the intelligence reports predicted. Jihi nodded. Earth's spy networks had been studying Scarix tactics for years. They knew exactly how the aliens liked to fight, what weapons they preferred, and most importantly, what they expected their enemies to do. "Are the orbital platforms ready?" she asked. "All 24 platforms are powered up and locked onto targets," came the reply. "The Scarix have no idea they exist. The orbital defense platforms had been built over the past 10 years, disguised as communication satellites and space junk. Each one carried weapons that Earth scientists had reverse-engineered from captured alien technology, then improved with human innovation." Engineer Dong-hyun watched from his station on Earth's largest orbital platform. His hands moved quickly over controls that looked almost alien themselves. In fact, they were. The entire platform had been built using stolen Scarix blueprints, but with human improvements that the aliens had never thought of. "Weapons charged," he reported, targeting the lead ships as planned. The Scarix fleet moved into standard attack formation, exactly as their battle manuals required. It was the same formation they had used successfully for centuries. Admiral Hyunwoo felt the familiar satisfaction of a job about to be completed properly. "Begin scanning for military targets," he ordered. "Though I doubt these humans have any real weapons." That was when the first surprise hit them. Captain Jihai's voice echoed across every human facility in the solar system. "All units, this is Luna Command. Execute Operation Welcome Party. Show them what happens when you try to exterminate humanity." 24 bursts of coherent energy reached out from seemingly empty space around Earth. Each beam was precisely targeted at a different Scarix ship. The aliens had been expecting primitive missiles or chemical explosives. Instead, they found themselves under attack by weapons that used their own technology principles, but applied in ways they had never imagined. Admiral Hyunwoo's command ship shuddered as its shields absorbed a direct hit. Around him, his crew stared at their instruments in confusion. The energy signature was familiar, but the power levels were impossible. "Where did that come from?" he roared. "Unknown, Admiral," his tactical officer replied, panic creeping into his voice. "We are detecting weapons platforms throughout this system, but our sensors show empty space. That is impossible. Primitive species do not have cloaking technology." Another wave of energy beams reached out from the hidden platforms. This time, 5 Scarix ships lost their shields completely. The aliens finally understood that they were not fighting primitives with pointed sticks. Dr. Yeon-ah worked from her station deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Her job was psychological warfare, and she had been studying Scarix culture for years. She knew exactly what would frighten them most. She activated the communication system that would broadcast directly to every Scarix ship. When she spoke, it was in perfect Scarix military language, using phrases that only their own officers should know. "Attention, Scarix invasion force," she said, her words being translated and transmitted in real time. "You have entered the territory of the Human Defense Alliance. You came here expecting to find helpless prey. Instead, you have found predators who have been watching you for years. We know your ship designs. We know your battle tactics. We know the names of your hatchlings back on your homeworld." The effect on the Scarix crews was immediate and terrifying. How could these primitive humans know their private military language? How could they know about their families? What else did they know? Engineer Dong-hyun smiled as he watched the alien ships begin to break formation. Fear was making them sloppy, exactly as the human psychologist had predicted. He targeted the largest ship and fired again, this time aiming for their main engine. The beam cut through the Scarix ship's armor like it was made of paper. The ship began to spin out of control, venting atmosphere and debris into space. Admiral Hyunwoo realized that his easy conquest had become a nightmare. These humans had been preparing for this fight, and they were winning. In the first 10 minutes of battle, he had lost 15 ships and dozens more were damaged. "Send a message to the Council," he ordered. "Tell them the humans are not what we expected. Request immediate reinforcements." His communications officer worked frantically at his console. "Admiral, the humans are jamming our long-range communications. They know our transmission frequencies." "How is that possible?" Before anyone could answer, another wave of human attacks disabled 6 more Scarix ships. Captain Ji-hai was coordinating the battle from Luna Station, using real-time intelligence that Earth's spy networks had been gathering for years. "Target their command ships next," she ordered. "Make them lose communication with each other." The hidden platforms fired again. This time, they used electromagnetic pulse weapons that the humans had developed specifically to disable Scarix computer systems. 3 alien command ships went dark immediately. Admiral Hyunwoo watched his fleet falling apart around him. The humans were fighting like they had been preparing for this exact battle. Every attack was perfectly coordinated. Every shot hit exactly where it would do the most damage. "Admiral," his tactical officer called out, "we are reading multiple human ships approaching from behind the third planet's moon. They appear to be using our own engine technology." The truth was even worse than the Scarix officer realized. The approaching human ships were not just using stolen alien technology. They were using improved versions that Earth scientists had been perfecting for years. Dr. Yeon-ah's voice came across the communication channels again. "Scarix fleet, this is your final warning. Surrender now, and some of you might live to see your home again. Continue fighting, and we will show you why humans are the most dangerous predators in this galaxy." Admiral Hyunwoo looked at what remained of his once proud fleet. Half his ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest were facing an enemy that seemed to know everything about them while revealing nothing about themselves. For the first time in his military career, he gave the order he never thought he would have to give. "All ships begin emergency retreat, fall back to minimum safe distance and await further orders." But as his ships tried to escape, they discovered that the humans had one more surprise waiting for them. The Galactic Council chambers had never been so quiet. Felthara's crystalline body reflected the emergency lighting that bathed the Great Hall in red. Every council member was present, but none of them were speaking. They were all staring at the main display screen, watching something that should have been impossible. Human ships were approaching Nexus Prime, Council Prime. Zephulos was the oldest being in the chamber. His ancient form had witnessed the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations over the past 3,000 years. He had never seen anything like what was happening now. "How many ships?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. General Korthvar, the military head of Council forces, checked his instruments for the 5th time. 12 vessels, Council Prime. They appear to be escorting captured Scarix ships. The captured ships were broadcasting Scarix identification codes, but they were clearly under human control. It was a message that every council member understood. The humans had not just defeated the Scarix fleet, they had taken it as a prize. Ambassador Taemin stepped forward from his position in the observation area. For months he had remained hidden among the council staff, watching and listening to everything they said. Now it was time to reveal himself. "Honored council members," he said in perfect galactic standard, "I am Ambassador Taemin of Earth. I believe we need to talk." The reaction was immediate and explosive. Half the council members started shouting at once. The other half sat in stunned silence. Felthara's light patterns shifted rapidly between colors that indicated shock, fear, and anger. "Impossible," roared Krikstar, the Scarix representative. "Humans are primitive savages. They cannot have a real ambassador." Taemin smiled and activated a small device he pulled from his pocket. Suddenly, every screen in the chamber displayed detailed recordings of council sessions from the past 8 months. The conversations showed council members discussing Earth, planning the Scarix attack, and dismissing humans as insignificant pests. I have been here for quite some time, Taemin said calmly. My government has found your discussions very educational. Council Prime Zephulos felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Fear. If the humans had been spying on the council for months, what else did they know? What other secrets had they learned? Dr. Heywan materialized next to Ambassador Taemin as her personal cloaking device deactivated. She was Earth's top diplomat and strategist, and she had been standing invisible in the council chambers for the entire emergency session. Honored Council, she said, Earth formally protests the unprovoked attack on our homeworld by Scarix forces. We demand immediate reparations and a formal apology. General Korthvar stood up, his forearms spreading wide in a gesture of military authority. You dare make demands of us? You are nothing but primitives with stolen technology. Dr. Heywan touched another device on her belt. Instantly, the main display showed detailed technical specifications for every council species' military equipment. Ship designs, weapon capabilities, defense systems, and tactical doctrines. Information that should have been classified at the highest levels. General, she said politely, we have been studying your military capabilities for decades. We know the location of every council fleet, the specifications of every weapon system, and the defensive capabilities of every council world. We also know that most of your technology has not been significantly improved in over 200 years. The implications hit the council members like a physical blow. The humans had not just been watching them, they had been preparing to fight them. Admiral Sung Ho's voice came through the communication system as his fleet took position around Nexus Prime. Council representatives, this is Admiral Sung Ho of the Earth Defense Force. We come in peace, but we are prepared for any eventuality. On the main screen, the human ships maneuvered with precision that impressed even the most experienced council military officers. The vessels were clearly based on alien technology, but they moved in formations that no council species had ever developed. Your ships, General Korthvar said slowly, they are using advanced tactical patterns. Yes, replied Dr. Heywan. We have had many years to improve upon the designs we borrowed from various council species. Human engineers are very good at making things work better. Ambassador Taemin activated another display, showing the current status of the Scarix fleet. Every ship was either destroyed or captured. The survivors were being held in comfortable but secure facilities on Earth's moon, where human scientists were learning everything they could about Scarix technology and culture. The Scarix attack was a mistake, Taemin said, but it was also an opportunity. My government has learned much about council military capabilities from this encounter. We have also gained valuable insight into council decision-making processes. Council Prime Zephulos realized that the situation was even worse than he had imagined. The humans had not just defeated one council fleet. They had gained enough information to potentially threaten the entire galactic civilization. What do you want? He asked. Dr. Heywan smiled. Earth wants recognition as a sovereign species with full council membership and voting rights. We want access to galactic trade networks and scientific exchanges. We want formal peace treaties with all council species. And if we refuse? Asked Veltera. The answer came from Admiral Sung Ho as his ships demonstrated their capabilities. Energy beams reached out from the human vessels, targeting and disabling 3 unmanned council defense platforms around Nexus Prime. The platforms were destroyed so quickly and efficiently that most council members did not even see it happen. We prefer peace, Dr. Heywan said, but we are prepared for war if necessary. Earth has been building ships and weapons for 20 years. We have colonies being established in 12 star systems that you do not even know exist. We have technology that combines the best features of every council species innovations. General Korthvar activated the emergency defense protocols for Nexus Prime, but discovered that the station's weapon systems were not responding. On his command display, a simple message appeared in perfect galactic standard. Please do not make this more difficult than necessary. Earth technical support. The humans had somehow infiltrated and disabled the most secure military installation in council space without anyone noticing. Ambassador Taemin stepped closer to the central platform where the most senior council members sat. My government wants to be friends with the council species. We believe that humans and aliens can work together for mutual benefit, but we will not tolerate any more attempts to exterminate our people. How long have you been preparing for this? Council Prime Zephulos asked. Since 1947, Taman replied. That was when the first alien ship crashed on Earth. We have been studying, learning, and preparing ever since. The truth was devastating. For almost 80 years, the Council had believed that Earth was a primitive world full of ignorant savages. Instead, humanity had been quietly building a technological and military capability that now threatened the balance of power in the entire galaxy. Dr. He Wan placed a data tablet on the central platform. This contains Earth's formal proposals for Council membership and interspecies cooperation agreements. We hope you will consider them carefully. As the Council members stared at the tablet, Admiral Sung Ho's ships began broadcasting something that made their situation perfectly clear. Human colonies were indeed being established throughout the galaxy. Ships carrying thousands of human settlers were already en route to worlds that the Council had never thought to explore. We are not asking for permission, Ambassador Taemin said quietly. We are offering partnership. The choice of how to proceed is yours. The age of human dominance in the galaxy had begun, and the Council was about to discover that their new neighbors were very different from any species they had encountered before. Admiral Hyunwoo thought his surviving ships had escaped the worst of it. The human orbital platforms had stopped firing when the Scarix fleet retreated beyond Earth's moon. For a few minutes, the alien commander allowed himself to believe that the primitives had shot their best weapons and were now spent. He was wrong. Pilot Jae-won sat in the cockpit of his fighter, watching the retreating Scarix ships through his targeting system. His craft looked like nothing the aliens had ever seen before. It was built using stolen Scarix technology, but redesigned by human engineers who understood things about physics that the aliens had never considered. Hunter Squadron, this is Lead, Jae-won spoke into his communicator. Prey is running scared. Time to show them what happens when you threaten our home. Behind him, 47 other human fighters dropped their stealth systems and appeared on every Scarix sensor at once. The alien ships had been so focused on escaping the orbital platforms that they had not noticed the small craft approaching from multiple directions. The human fighters moved like nothing the Scarix had ever encountered. They were fast, but more importantly, they were smart. Each pilot had studied Scarix ship designs for years. They knew exactly where to hit to cause maximum damage. Target their engine cooling systems, Jae-won ordered. Make them choose between speed and survival. The first wave of human fighters swept through the Scarix formation like sharks through a school of fish. Their weapons were small but precise, striking at weak points that the alien designers had never thought to protect. Admiral Hyunwoo watched in horror as his ships began losing power one by one. The human fighters were too small and fast for his main weapons to track. They darted between his larger ships, striking and disappearing before his gunners could respond. How are they moving so fast? He demanded. His tactical officer's voice shook as he replied. Admiral, they appear to be using modified versions of our own propulsion systems. But they have made improvements that our engineers said were impossible. On one of the damaged Scarix ships, Sub-Commander Velkrix was learning exactly how impossible human improvements could be. His vessel had lost main power after a human fighter put 3 precise shots into his engine cooling system. Now his crew was preparing for emergency evacuation when something heavy hit the outer hull. What was that? Velkrix asked. Before anyone could answer, the sound of cutting tools echoed through the ship. The humans were not content to simply disable Scarix vessels. They were boarding them. Lieutenant Minji led the boarding team through the hole they had cut in the alien hull. She and her soldiers wore armor that was obviously based on Scarix designs, but improved in ways that made it superior to anything the aliens themselves used. Remember, we want prisoners for questioning, she told her team, and we want their computer systems intact. Earth Command needs to know everything about their technology. The Scarix crew tried to resist, but they discovered that humans had studied their fighting tactics as thoroughly as their technology. Every move they made was anticipated and countered. Within 20 minutes, Lieutenant Minji's team had captured the entire ship. Sub-Commander Velkrix found himself staring at a human soldier who spoke perfect Scarix. How do you know our language? He asked. Lieutenant Minji smiled behind her helmet. We have been listening to your communications for 15 years. We know more about your people than you think. Back on Earth, scientist Seok Jin was putting the finishing touches on weapons that had been designed specifically for this battle. He had spent years studying captured Scarix biology samples, learning exactly how their bodies worked and what would hurt them most. "The new gas dispersal systems are ready," he reported to Commander Wu Jin. "If the aliens try to board any of our ships, they will discover that their breathing apparatus cannot filter human chemical weapons." But Seok Jin's most important work was not defensive. He had created projectile weapons that would penetrate Scarex's armor, and energy disruptors that would shut down their nervous systems without killing them. Earth wanted prisoners, not just victories. Admiral Hyunwoo realized that his fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that seemed to know everything about Scarex's technology and tactics. Worse, the humans were capturing his ships intact, which meant they would learn even more. "Send emergency signals to any Scarex ship within range," he ordered. "Tell them to stay away from this system. The humans are not what the Council believes them to be." His communications officer tried to comply, but discovered another unpleasant surprise. "Admiral, the humans are jamming all our long-range frequencies. We cannot contact anyone outside this system." The human jamming technology was another example of stolen alien science improved by human innovation. Earth's communication specialists had spent years learning how the various alien species sent messages across space. Now they could block any transmission they chose while keeping their own communications completely hidden. Pilot Jaewon was leading his squadron on their third attack run when he noticed something interesting. The Scarex ships were beginning to cluster together, forming a defensive circle. It was exactly what their military manuals said to do when facing superior numbers. "Hunter Squadron, the prey is following their textbook," he announced. "Execute Pattern 7. Pattern 7 was a human tactic that took advantage of predictable alien behavior. The fighters would appear to attack the defensive formation from one direction, forcing the Scarex ships to orient their weapons accordingly. Then the real attack would come from the opposite direction. The tactic worked perfectly. The Scarex commanders turned their ships to face what they thought was the main human attack, only to discover that their most vulnerable sides were now exposed to the fighters they had not seen coming. 8 more alien ships lost power in the coordinated strike. Admiral Hyunwoo realized that his enemy was not just technologically superior. They were tactically smarter, and they had been preparing for this specific battle far longer than he had imagined. Lieutenant Minji had captured 3 more Scarex ships by the time the alien admiral made his final desperate decision. His remaining vessels had been reduced to less than 20 operational ships, and the humans showed no signs of running out of fighters or weapons. "All ships, prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace," Admiral Hyunwoo ordered. "We must warn the Council about what we have discovered here." But when his navigation officer tried to activate the faster-than-light engines, nothing happened. The human fighters had been targeting those systems specifically, ensuring that no Scarex ship would be able to leave the solar system. "Admiral," his officer reported with growing panic, "our hyperspace drives are not responding. We are trapped here." Sub-Commander Velkrix, now a prisoner aboard his own ship, listened to Lieutenant Minji's radio communications with growing understanding. The humans had planned every aspect of this battle. They had known exactly how the Scarex would attack, how they would retreat, and how they would try to escape. "You knew we were coming," he said to his human captor. Lieutenant Minji nodded. "We have been expecting you for years. Your council thinks it makes decisions in secret, but we have been watching and listening. We know about every plan you make before you make it." As the last Scarex ships lost power and drifted helplessly in space, Admiral Hyunwoo finally understood the full scope of his mistake. The humans had not just defeated his fleet. They had captured most of it intact, along with all the technology and information it contained. But the worst realization was still to come. If the humans could do this to a Scarex battle fleet, what could they do to the rest of the galaxy? The answer to that question was about to become very clear to everyone in the Galactic Council. 3 days after Ambassador Taemin's revelation, the entire Galactic Council was still trying to understand what had happened to their universe. The human fleet remained in orbit around Nexus Prime, not threatening but clearly ready for anything. Council members who had spent centuries believing they were the most advanced beings in the galaxy now faced the reality that they had been surpassed by a species they had dismissed as primitive. President Nayoung arrived on the 4th day with a diplomatic convoy that made every previous display of human capability look modest. Her flagship was larger than most Council battleships, but it moved with the grace of a fighter craft. Behind her came vessels that carried Earth's most advanced technology and its most brilliant minds. Council Prime. Zephulos watched the human president's ship dock with Nexus Prime and felt the weight of history pressing down on him. In 3,000 years of life, he had never seen a single event change the balance of galactic power so completely. President. Na-Young entered the council chambers with the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly how strong her position was. She was followed by Fleet Admiral Chan-Woo, whose uniform displayed decorations from military campaigns that the council had never heard of, and Dr. Kyung-soo, whose scientific achievements had revolutionized human understanding of physics. Honored council members, President Na-Young said in perfect galactic standard, "I come to discuss the future of our galaxy." Her voice was calm and respectful, but every alien in the chamber could hear the underlying strength. This was not a leader who had come to beg for acceptance. This was someone who was offering partnership from a position of absolute power. Fleet Admiral Chan-Woo activated a holographic display that showed the current state of human expansion throughout the galaxy. Red dots appeared on the star chart, each one representing a human colony or military installation. There were hundreds of them, scattered across regions that the Council had never explored. In the past 20 years, the Admiral said, Earth has established settlements in 47 star systems. We have built mining operations on 63 worlds that contain resources the Council has never learned to extract. We have developed trade relationships with 17 species that the Council considers too primitive to contact. The implications were staggering. While the Council had been debating whether humans deserved to be noticed, humanity had been quietly building an empire that rivaled their own. Dr. Kyung-soo stepped forward with a tablet containing information that would change everything the Council thought they knew about science. Our research teams have made significant advances in faster-than-light travel, energy generation, and biological enhancement. We would be happy to share these discoveries with Council species as part of formal cooperation agreements. Several Council members leaned forward eagerly. The promise of new technology was always appealing, especially when it came from a species that had already demonstrated its innovative capabilities. But Krikstar, the Scarix representative, was not interested in cooperation. His people had been humiliated by the human victory, and he wanted revenge more than progress. "You may have surprised us once," he snarled, "but the Council has resources you cannot imagine. We have 1,000 worlds and millions of ships." President Na-Young smiled politely. "We know exactly what resources you have, Krikstar. We have been monitoring your supply lines, your ship production facilities, and your military communications for years." Ambassador Taemin activated another display, showing detailed intelligence reports on every major Council military installation, production schedules, defensive capabilities, supply routes, and personnel records. Information that should have been impossible for outsiders to obtain. "We also know about the secret alliance that 7 Council species formed last week to discuss military action against Earth," Taemin added. "The meetings were held on Korthax Prime, in the underground facility that you believed was completely secure." General Korthvar felt his blood turn cold. The emergency alliance meetings had been held in the most classified location in Council space. If the humans knew about them, then nowhere was safe from their intelligence gathering. Dr. Kyung-soo opened his tablet and began reading from it. The Alliance discussed using biological weapons against human colonies, targeting Earth's food supply with engineered viruses, and coordinating a surprise attack using ships from 15 different species. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Every Council member who had participated in those secret discussions realized that their most private conversations had been monitored and recorded. "We prefer not to respond to such plans with violence," President Na-Young said. "But we want everyone to understand that we are aware of all attempts to organize against us." Fleet Admiral Chan-Woo stepped forward. "Earth currently has military installations in 90 star systems. Our ships use propulsion technology that is 30% faster than the best Council designs. Our weapons are more precise and more powerful than anything in the Council arsenal. Our defensive systems can protect entire planets from orbital bombardment. More importantly," Dr. Kyung-soo added, "we have solved several scientific problems that have puzzled Council researchers for centuries. Our biotechnology can extend lifespans by hundreds of years. Our energy systems can power entire civilizations using resources that most species consider worthless." The offer was clear. Cooperation with humanity would bring benefits beyond anything the Council species had imagined. Resistance would bring consequences that they were not prepared to face. Council Prime Xephulos had lived long enough to recognize when the universe had fundamentally changed. The old order, where the Council controlled galactic civilization through superior technology and military force, was over. A new species had emerged that was stronger, smarter, and better prepared than any that had come before. "What exactly are you proposing?" he asked. President Na Young gestured to Ambassador Tae-min, who placed a formal document on the central platform. Earth proposes the establishment of the Galactic Cooperative Alliance. All species would maintain their independence and self-governance, but major decisions affecting multiple worlds would be made by a democratic council with proportional representation. "Proportional to what?" asked Velthara. "Population, technological contribution, and territorial extent," replied Dr. Kyung-soo. "Based on current measurements, Earth would hold approximately 35% of the total voting power." The number was shocking, but none of the council members could argue with it. Humanity had grown faster and spread further than anyone had realized. Fleet Admiral Chan Wu activated one final display. "This is the current status of human expansion. We are establishing an average of 3 new colonies per month. Our population growth rate is significantly higher than any council species. Within 50 years, humans will outnumber the combined population of all current council worlds." The future was becoming clear. Humanity was not asking to join the existing galactic order. They were creating a new one, and they were offering the council species a chance to be part of it. Krikstar made one last attempt at defiance. "The Scarix will never bow to primitives." President Na Young's expression did not change, but her voice carried a note of finality. "The Scarix survivors from your attack on Earth have been given a choice. They can return to their homeworld as ambassadors for peace, or they can remain as our guests indefinitely. Several have already chosen to join human research teams, where their knowledge is valued and their contributions are appreciated." The message was clear. Even the defeated Scarix were finding that cooperation with humanity offered them opportunities they had never imagined. Over the following weeks, 43 council species signed cooperation agreements with Earth. The remaining 4 chose isolation, withdrawing to their homeworlds and cutting off contact with the rest of the galaxy. 5 years later, the Terran sector encompassed 300 star systems and over 2 billion human colonists. The Galactic Cooperative Alliance had become the most successful interspecies organization in galactic history. Scientific discoveries were shared freely, trade flourished between worlds, and conflicts between species had become almost unknown. The council chambers on Nexus Prime had been expanded to accommodate representatives from over 60 species, including many that had never been contacted before humanity began exploring the galaxy. Ambassador Tae-min served as the Alliance's first Secretary General, while President Na Young had been elected to a second term leading the human government. In the quiet moments between official sessions, Council Prime Xephulos often reflected on how much the galaxy had changed. The humans had not conquered the existing civilizations. Instead, they had shown everyone a better way to live together. The age of competition and conflict had ended, replaced by an era of cooperation and shared prosperity. The species that had once dismissed humanity as primitive pests now looked to them for leadership and guidance. The hunters had indeed become the hunted, but in the end everyone had become something better. The Great Hall of Nexus Prime stretched out like a metal canyon, filled with the sounds of 47 different alien voices arguing in their native tongues. The air tasted of recycled atmosphere, and the strange chemical scents that each species brought with them. Floating platforms held representatives from across the galaxy, each one believing they were the most important being in the room. Velthara's crystalline body caught the light as she raised one of her many arms. The sound that came from her was like wind chimes in a storm, instantly translated by the universal communicators that every council member wore. "Order. We must have order in this chamber." The voices died down slowly. Some of the smaller species stopped talking first, then the medium-sized ones, and finally the large predator races that dominated most conversations. Krikstar was the last to stop speaking. His reptilian head turned toward Velthara with obvious annoyance, his forked tongue flicking out to taste the air. "The debate has gone on long enough," Velthara continued. We have received multiple reports about the third planet in the Sol system, the world the local inhabitants call Earth. A low rumble came from several council members. Earth was known to most of them, but only as a footnote in their star charts. It was a small blue world filled with violent creatures that had barely learned to leave their own atmosphere. Most council species had written them off as a dead end in evolution. The reports say these humans are becoming a problem, Velthara said. They have started to build weapons that could threaten shipping lanes. Some have even suggested they might become dangerous in a few thousand years. Krikstar stood up on his platform, his massive form casting a shadow across several smaller representatives. His species, the Scarix, were known throughout the galaxy as excellent soldiers and even better destroyers. They had conquered 12 worlds in the last century alone. Council Mother Velthara, Krikstar said, his voice like grinding stone. Why do we waste time talking about insects? My people can solve this problem in less than one solar cycle. We have ships in the area already. Several other council members nodded their agreement. The humans were a minor issue at best. They had barely developed spaceflight and still fought each other with primitive chemical explosives. How hard could it be to remove them? The Scarix fleet is strong, agreed Vorthak, whose people looked like walking trees with too many eyes. But perhaps we should study these humans first. Learn about their culture before we act. Krikstar's laugh was like breaking glass. Study them? They are barely above the level of wild animals. They fight each other over resources they could easily share. They poison their own world with industrial waste. They create weapons designed only to kill their own kind. What is there to study? The debate continued for another hour. Some species wanted to ignore Earth completely. Others suggested limited contact to see if humans could be taught to behave properly. A few wanted to study human biology for potential medical applications. But most agreed with Krikstar that the simplest solution was the best one. Meanwhile, far from the council chambers, Tai Min sat in a small observation room that most council members had forgotten existed. He looked human to anyone who might glance his way, which was exactly what he wanted. His dark hair and simple clothes made him seem like just another maintenance worker or low-level administrator. But Tai Min was neither of those things. He was Earth's first and only ambassador to the Galactic Council, and he had been listening to their debates for 8 months without revealing himself. Every word spoken in the council chambers was recorded and transmitted back to Earth through channels that the council had never learned to detect. He touched the small device hidden behind his ear and whispered in Korean, "Dr. So Young, are you receiving this?" The answer came back immediately through bone conduction that no alien technology could detect. "Yes, Taemin. We are hearing everything." "How long until they vote?" "Soon," Taemin replied. Krikstar is pushing hard for immediate action. The others are agreeing with him. I think we have maybe 6 hours before they make their final decision. Back on Earth, Dr. So Young sat in a bunker buried 3 kilometers beneath the city of Seoul. Around her, dozens of screens showed data streams from across the solar system. Earth had been preparing for this day for much longer than the council realized. "Commander Wu Jin," she called across the command center. "The council is about to approve the Scarix attack. We need to activate all defense protocols now." Commander Wu Jin turned from his own bank of monitors. His face was calm, but his eyes showed the intensity that had made him Earth's top military strategist. "How many ships are they sending?" Based on Taemin's reports, probably a standard Scarix battle group. 50 to 60 ships designed for planetary bombardment and surface assault. Wu Jin nodded slowly. They expect to find Stone Age primitives throwing rocks at their landing craft. Instead, they are going to find us. For the past 30 years, Earth had been visited by alien ships that thought they were staying hidden. But human radar technology had been tracking them since the 1990s. Human scientists had been studying crashed alien technology since the 1940s. And human intelligence services had been infiltrating alien civilization since the first successful, faster-than-light experiments in 2019. The aliens thought they were so much smarter than humans. They thought their technology was impossible for primitive Earth minds to understand. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. In the council chambers, the vote was finally called. 43 species voted to approve the Scarix action against Earth. 3 voted to study humans first. 1 voted for complete isolation. None voted to leave Earth alone entirely. Krikstar's satisfaction was visible in the way his tail swept across the floor. My fleet will depart immediately. The human problem will be solved within 10 solar cycles. Velthara recorded the vote in the official council records. So it is decided. The Scarix will handle the Earth situation as they see fit. What none of them knew was that the Earth situation had been preparing to handle them for decades. Every alien ship that had visited Earth had been tracked, studied, and in some cases, quietly boarded by human teams who learned everything they could before the aliens left. The Scarix thought they were going to exterminate a planet full of helpless primitives. Instead, they were about to discover that humans had been studying them specifically for 15 years. Ever since the first Scarix scout ship had been detected entering the solar system, Commander Wu Jin smiled as he activated the final defense systems. "Let them come," he said to Dr. So Young. "It is time to show the galaxy what humans can really do."